All right. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Agony of Moon podcast. My name is Dalton. I am joined, as usual, by my cohorts, Moon and Trace. And today we have Tristan on. If you don't remember, because let's face it, who could? Tristan is the fifth member that was voted on by the community. He's just had a lot of stuff going on recently, so he hasn't been able to be here, but now he's here, and he might be in the next Agony of Grand Prix if he makes it next week. Speaking of which, Agony Grand Prix, next week, same Agony time, same Agony channel. Please watch it. Yeah, that's about all I've got for an intro. Let's get into the Taste of Agony segment. Moon, what do you got?
I have the hot mustard flavored Doritos with me.
I've seen those. They're right next to the ketchup one.
Yeah, they're right next to the ketchup
and
one.
mustard flavored Doritos for sandwiches. You're specifically supposed to put those on sandwiches.
You're supposed to put these on sandwiches? Okay, that actually
That's what they're
makes
made
sense.
for. I read that somewhere.
Okay,
That's
if I knew
amazing.
that would have been a lot better because my mom gave me one of those without telling me what it is, and I swear it was the worst thing I ever put in my mouth.
Oh, rip. I also have the Sprite Lemonade Legacy.
Oh, I love Sprite Lemonade.
Yeah? Well, I don't know which one I'm trying first, actually.
I mean, it's a food and a drink. You can kind of try them both, but
I'm gonna open the drink first.
okay. I'm gonna look for my ring light.
You might want to use the drink to wash it down.
Woo! That smells really good. I opened the Sprite. I haven't sipped it yet. I just kind of took a sniff. It smells so good. It smells delicious. Now I am someone who enjoys mustard, and I despise ketchup.
Why do you despise ketchup?
I don't know. It's too sweet for me.
I agree that some ketchup can be too sweet. I think you've just gotten the wrong ketchup.
Probably.
That's
This
kind of my
smells
thing
so
with food, though.
interesting.
It's just like, there are some things that I don't like, and there are some things I've had the wrong version of it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I used to
haven't
fucking
had any
hate
ketchup yet.
asparagus, but, like, asparagus in certain contexts can be actually amazing.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna try the chip first. That tastes nothing like any food I've ever had.
Like, in
But
a
it
good
doesn't
way
even-
or a bad way?
That doesn't even taste like mustard. Well,
Interesting.
no. Hold on. I know what it tastes like. You know the McDonald's hot mustard sauce?
I
Exactly.
do, actually. My friend gave me that to try recently.
That's what this tastes like. It tastes like that, but stronger.
And see, that's why I can't eat it because it's just that with no sandwich or anything filtering it. I
Mhm.
didn't know it was supposed
Yeah.
to be put on a sandwich.
See,
Yeah,
That's
that
what I've...
definitely needs to be paired up with something.
Because I read a news article whenever these were first announced that like they were making these ketchup and mustard flavors, and I was told they made them because so many people put Doritos on their sandwiches, and so they were specifically making a Dorito just to do that. I don't know if that article was correct, but it's definitely something I read. Hit it with the lemonade.
All right, time for the lemonade.
For those of you who just saw me reach behind myself and grab a paper bag, don't worry about it. It's a grocery bag. It's just, it has my Taste of Agony in it, and I put it behind me like a
Woo!
fucking idiot.
Okay, the lemonade is lemonade, and it's good. It's really good.
Sprite lemonade is probably one of my best flavors of Sprite, just kind of in general.
Yeah, no, for
I
sure.
I like Sprite cranberry, and I like the tropical punch that McDonald's used to have, but I think lemonade's the king for me. Anything else?
No, that's all of my things. You can go ahead.
Okay, so so let's rewind this. In New York City, they have this grocery store called Duane Reade, and it's Walgreens, but just with a different name. Like, it's owned by the same company. Literally, it goes through the Walgreens app. It's just Walgreens with a different name. So if you come to New York and you see both Walgreens and Duane Reade, just know those are the same store. But moving on. So I went to Duane Reade, and I was looking around for drinks because the 2 liters at Duane Reade are like $1.50 each, and so I just snag those whenever I need drinks. And near them, I saw a bag with a logo that I recognized, but not a flavor that I recognized. So Takis has come out with, if you can see on my camera, it's a intense nacho flavor. But if you see underneath it, it says non-spicy, which is the first time that a Takis flavor has ever specified being non-spicy. So I'm going to officially call this the Takis for gringos. If you don't know what gringos are, it's the Mexican term for white people.
Although it's not used in a derogatory, fashion.
Unless they're acting like idiots. My stepdad's Mexican. I used to go to school in Connecticut. I know these things. Moving forward, that smells like artificial cheese, all right. Kind of smells like Cheez-Its, which is not a good thing. It's like a Cheez-It mixed with a Dorito. All right.
Does it taste like a Cheez-It?
It's leaning more Dorito.
Surprising, actually.
It's like if Doritos had better tortillas for their chips.
Interesting.
Because, like, the Takis tortilla that they use for their chips is, like, of a higher quality.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like if Doritos basically tried to copy Takis more than Dinamita already did. Not bad. I give it like a 6 out of 10. It's not the best. I'm gonna snack on those later.
Heck yeah.
The only other thing I have is like a 1-liter bottle of cherry Coke, but that's something I've had a little too much. So, not exactly a taste of agony. But speaking of agony, let's get into the topic for today.
Agony, that's what we're in.
Constantly. But no,
Yeah.
in case nobody read the title, which, let's face it, you kind of clicked the stream, you had to have.
At least most of it.
Hopefully. May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And it sucks that I didn't do many podcasts back in April because April is Autism Awareness Month. And I really wish I could have done a dedicated episode to, like, the experiences of autism and all of that, but, like, oh well. But for May, I wanted to do a dedicated video toward mental health and just kind of like things of that sort. Talk about like how our mental health has been doing recently, things that we do to cope, maybe stories of like mental health care or the lack thereof that we've received, some like toxic things that we've sort of realized over the years, just little things like that. Just like talking about mental health in general to where we can kind of create a discussion about it, just so that way we can like bring awareness, because that's what the month is for. If nobody wants to go first, I will. I was just giving the opportunity.
Oh, I see. I was about to be like, dang, if you're gonna put me on the spot though.
I wasn't putting you on the spot, but your name
No,
is in the
I know.
podcast. I figured somebody would go first.
No. True, that's true. Yeah, I'm not going first. I don't know who you think I am.
Trace, Tristan, either of you want to go first?
I'm having to mentally process some stuff before I say it, okay?
Fair enough.
Valid.
Trace?
You can go first.
Okay. So, I guess I'm going to talk about recent events about mental health wise, and then I'll get into like some of the things I've heard, and then just like things that I've found actually help me out a lot. But for those who don't know, for about the past 2 years, uh, give or take about 3 months, because I did go back to Tennessee for the summer. For the past 2 years, I have been attending college in New York City. And it's a very good opportunity. I go to one of the best musical theater performing arts colleges in the country. It's literally ranked number one. Um, and it's a great opportunity. There are great people here. Uh, but there are also some not great people here, and there's also some things here that I wasn't prepared for, and uh, it's caused quite a few things to happen. So let's get into that. So let's start with the fact of it's a change of scenery, definitely, but it's a change of scenery that I wanted. This is kind of like going in the opposite direction of basically what the rest of this is going to be. I will say, for some, moving to New York City can be a mental health detriment. I kind of saw it as the opposite, just because, like, Trace and Tristan know. Where we live isn't exactly the best, especially for somebody like me, that being autistic, gay, and into musical theater. Um, Campbell County is full of a lot of old people, a lot of people who are stuck in the past, a lot of bigotry, a lot of dismission toward the younger generations, a lot of school systems and police departments and politicians who don't really care, except for Hunley. Hunley's good, but it was just kind of a thing of, I knew from a very young age this mentality of I need to get out of here. And that's like, it's a horrible mentality to have, but like sometimes you do need it. Because if you don't have that mentality, you can get stuck in the same place and you can throw your dreams away because of fear. And I had that fear at first because I'd been told my entire life that I couldn't make a career out of singing. And that's also something that I've noticed in a lot of places. It's just like people don't pursue their dreams because they're told they can't make a career out of it. Like when I started this channel or when I started singing, people told me that I couldn't make a career out of doing these things. And granted, I'm nowhere near to the point where I'm getting paid to do these things, but it doesn't mean I'm going to give up. But I feel like a lot of people don't understand the different perspectives of doing this kind of stuff, because the art industry, and it's like three of us here don't actively have careers in the art industry, but like as a podcast, we are technically in it. Like we are breaking into the arts industry with a podcast. It's just a different kind of art. But moving to New York, I can say, is probably one of the better things that's happened to me in terms of meeting people who are like me and getting to see just how, like, just what I'm getting into. But I wanted to talk about this in particular, going off of why I started my channel, is that if you know my channel, you know that my upload schedule is a little bit garbage. And I kind of wanted to explain that a little bit, because it's a thing that I feel guilty about, and it's definitely something that I've needed to take responsibility for quite a long time, and I keep making like these little offhanded apologies in the intros of videos about the upload schedule, or like the outro of a certain cover. You'll see me talk about it, but you'll never see me express the actual like reason. And here's the reason. So as I've stated before, I have a lot of mental health deficiencies. I was diagnosed on the autism spectrum. I have attention deficit hyperactive disorder. I have generalized anxiety disorder, and I suffer from depression. And if that sounded like a cocktail of words, it's also a cocktail of emotions. My brain doesn't exactly know how to regulate itself, is the best way that I can describe it. Because autism spectrum disorder basically means your neurons are wired in a way that you perceive the world differently from the general population. And autistic people tend to behave in a way that society deems as strange. And we have different things that we go through in order to get tasks done. We sometimes have to do it a different way, or we sometimes need something like music in order to focus ourselves, which is why a lot of autistic people, almost everyone, owns a pair of headphones. Because we sometimes need the background noise in order to keep ourselves going. And for me, with YouTube, it's no different. It's that it's a task that takes a good amount of time, and it's usually time that I don't have. Or it's time that I have, but my brain isn't in the right space to do it. Which is why my upload schedule has kind of been hell for leather. Because this is kind of the insight into my mind whenever shit happens on my channel. If I plan something ahead, there's about a 50-50 chance that it'll ever happen. Like my February covers, I only got one out. I planned 5, I only got out 1. And it was because throughout the process, it just became frustrating. Because not only because I'm doing it alone, but because like things weren't working out the way that they used to. Like my harmonies were off. I didn't have the equipment necessary in order to make it the quality that I wanted it. And so I got frustrated and I just shut down, and then the covers never got uploaded. And they're probably still sitting in my hard drive somewhere, like all the files. And I could upload them if I wanted to, I just haven't. But as far as like my gaming videos and all of that, it's also the same. It's like I sit down and for some reason, like the brain is willing, like I want to do this, but the body just doesn't. I shut down. And like I spiral for a couple hours, and then by the time that I'm back, it's already too late. And that's kind of been how it's been for about the last 6-7 years trying to do my YouTube channel. And I've been getting better at it. But recently, college has been putting me through the ringer. My financial situation is absolutely abysmal. I've been having to ask for money from my mother and coworkers and friends for doing Photoshop commissions that I've also slowly become burnt out from doing. And it's becoming harder to do the things that I like because of mentalities that I developed from not being raised to know that I had the mental health conditions that I did. I was never medicated for my depression. I was never given anything for my anxiety. I wasn't told that I was autistic until I was about to turn 19. I was put on ADHD medication in 2nd grade, but they took me off it. And I've been unmedicated since. And it becomes harder to deal with it. And like, I'm an adult now, and like, I have to do things with my own money. And my mother, being a nurse, has good insurance, so I can go and get these things, but again, it's time. What a lot of people don't understand about mental health struggles is that our society is so built around this grind culture, is what I'm gonna call it. This grind culture, this thing where it's like, if you're not working or resting with the motivation that you're resting to where you can work again, then you're doing it wrong. And it's this thing, it's like, I want to blame it on capitalism, but it's like, it's just a poor habit that our society has come up with. Because I remember my stepdad used to say this one thing to me. He would always say, if you love doing something, never do it for free. And over the years, I've learned that that's a very toxic mentality. Because what it basically boils down to is, if you can't monetize what you love doing, then it's worthless. And I feel like that mentality is kind of creeped into me almost. And it's also part of the reason why I don't upload as consistently anymore. Because it's like, I have work and I have school and all of these things. And when I finally get free time, I'm either burnt out or I just look at it and I think, what's the point? And like, therapy is expensive. And so, especially in my current situation where I'm only working 1 day a week, they're actively trying to cut my fucking hours, and my paycheck was only $96 this week. They forget that mental health takes a toll on you even when you don't have the money to fix it. And that's what I think is like a fundamental problem in our country, at least, is that we've hidden basically... America is basically the EA of the rest of the world. We've hidden everything behind paywalls. Oh, would you like to not sleep on the street? Well, about a couple $1,000. Up to $100,000. Up to possibly more. Okay? Would you like to not die from starvation? Well, you can get food stamps or a food bank, but those are typically stations placed far away from wherever you're going to actually be living, because we've built our entire society around cars. Oh, you want a car to be able to get to the place where you're going to get your food or the things that you're using to afford food? Well, that also costs money. And it's like, other countries don't typically have these kind of problems. Like, their resources are at least accessible. The homeless shelters are at least accessible. Healthcare, mental health care, it's at least accessible, if not free. In America, we have that problem where we've structured it around how much can I get out of you, rather than how much can I help you. And I don't know. Definitely there are ways to fix it, and they've been supposed upon, but as far as a country goes, we're just kind of stuck. And it's frustrating. Which is why all of these different coping mechanisms were invented. Because they're cheaper than the actual solution, and they can help in the short term. Or they can help in the long term, some of them, but what it basically boils down to is that, like, a lot of my problems stem from the fact that I was never taught how to live with my conditions. I was taught that my conditions weren't real, and that everything that I was doing that wasn't what the other people were doing was wrong. And I think that's a mentality we need to stop teaching. We need to destigmatize things like autism and ADHD and depression. We need to destigmatize them, and we need to work for a world where we can give kids the tools they need to live with these conditions, to where they don't grow up to be confused on how to live because of these conditions. I turned into a rant and a half. Apologies.
I mean, that's kind of the point of this, though, isn't it?
Yeah, true. That's just kind of my perspective on mental health as a whole. I tried not to get too specific with anything to where we could still fill out 2 hours, but
Don't worry. I'm pretty sure a lot of us have a lot of things to say.
who's going next?
I don't know.
I guess I will.
All right, go for it, Justin.
So, today here in Campbell County, our high schools, all of our seniors have graduated. So, I guess I want to talk something about that. This
Go
goes
for
to. This is from my perspective, and this is honestly a message to anybody who's really, whether you think you are or not, you are just now entering the world. You're leaving high school. You're just now starting your life. And it can be stressful. It can be confusing. It can be scary. It's all of it. It is, and you're a liar if you say it ain't. Now, if you have confidence, good. Keep that confidence because you're going to need it, man. You really are. Thing is, don't go out there just trying to get the big money jobs. Don't go out there and sell your soul to what everybody else is doing. Do what makes you happy. Even in the end, even if you didn't complete high school, even if you're leaving high school, do what makes you happy. And if you don't know what makes you happy, that's all right because you're like everybody else. If you don't know what you want to do right now and you don't have a plan, that's fine because, buddy, that's the most of the world right now. That's just how it is. That's life. And as sad as it is, that's something that we're all going to have to get used to as we grow up. But in the end, that's why we have to find the right people to keep it right. And that's one thing. When it's around the time where you leave high school, you're not going to bring a lot of your high school friends with you. And you're going to say, no, that's not true. All my high school friends are coming with me. They're all going to still be my friends, my best friends. That's just not true. That's impossible, bud. People move on. People live their lives. That's not possible. Go. Sorry. Now, and also what will really be a shock and a big just wow moment, something that you would never expect is while you lose a lot of friends just by losing contact, you're also going to realize who a lot of your real friends and not so real friends are. Especially if you're somebody like me who decided to take a different path, leave high school, and pursue something that not everybody else is doing. A lot of my friends that I thought were my friends now look down on me because they decided to complete high school and they think they're better than me. That's fine. That's fine. You want to know why? I'm living my life. I've still got people. I've got Dalton. And I want to invest more into this podcast. Help me fill my time, help me quit my bad habits, help me straighten up my life.
I
I guess the
definitely.
summary
Oh,
of all of this is it's just life is a one big mess. If you don't know where you're going right now, it's fine. That's everybody. You'll get there.
I definitely think what's not talked about enough is that like well, it's talked about all the time, but nobody really does anything about it. How little high school actually does for somebody. And like school is important. I won't say that school isn't important because the same people who say the school is important is the same people who think that the election was rigged. But school is an important tool for exposing you to different kinds of people and getting the bare basics of education. And I've talked about this. I've talked about like my ideal school system would be incredibly different to what we have now. As in like high school would function more like a university would, but that's a different subject. That's a different day. As far as it goes, though, people are fickle creatures. We're definitely the most fickle species on the earth at the moment. Like, a single word could disband your entire pack. A single rumor could disband your entire pack. Or, worse, your entire pack could not believe the rumor, but somebody said that they did, and then you just feel the need to cut yourself off because you don't know who's friend or foe anymore. Cough, me, cough. Anyway, um, but that is definitely an aspect of it. It's like everybody has their own path, and whether or not that path is your path, it doesn't mean that anybody is any better or any worse than anybody. Unless they plan on reviving the Third Reich, in which case maybe slow them down a little bit, but like you don't have right to judge people depending on your path in life. Because your path is your path and their path is theirs. A lot of my friends have gone off and shit. Blake tried to go to mortuary college. Fucking Dylan's a goddamn plane mechanic now. Like, a lot of things happen. And we all took very different paths, but it's like, I know who my friends are. Like, it took me time. And, like, I've definitely developed a lot of trust issues over the 2 years. But, like, I know who my friends are. And that's one lesson that you're going to learn very quickly as an adult. And maybe you'll have to learn it multiple times. But, like he said, it's like you'll know who your true friends are. And if those are your high school friends, then that's great. Honestly, if you can keep some of those people, then you can keep them forever. But sometimes high school ends and people change. And it sucks. Hell, as soon as I was gone and I had left Tennessee, people were trying to slander my name literally every other day. People are assholes.
I guess I just want to end that my part on with just if you're leaving high school and you're leaving that big group, something that you felt that you were a part of, you don't know where you're going next, you're not a part of anything right now, you're just at home, don't stay to yourself, because I feel like from my personal experience, that's the worst thing you can do. Go out there, find something you can be a part of. If you like playing card games, go out there, find some friends out at a card shop you can play games with. If you like sports, go out anywhere to a park, basketball fields or anything. I don't care. Just don't close yourself off from society, because that's when that's when you feel like there's things that you need to regret, but that's just all self-induced. I promise.
And I feel like that's a thing that not a lot of people talk about, is that like some people very much get stuck in this loner mentality, but it's biologically false. Like, people, humans, Homo sapiens, we are social creatures. We need each other. Granted, some people need people in shorter bursts. Maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you like spending time with people in very certain environments, or for very short periods of time. But everybody needs somebody. Whether it's a friend, whether it's a partner, whether it's just some guy at work that you crack jokes with to get through your shift. Everybody needs someone. And if you don't have someone, then I highly suggest finding someone. At least one person. You don't gotta marry the guy. You don't gotta fuck him on Tuesdays. You don't gotta do any of that. Just somebody to be around. Because my mental health completely spiraled the beginning of third semester, because first semester I had to deal with so much. And then second semester I had to deal with racist teachers. And then I went home for the summer and I just had to deal with so much there. My car got stuck in a ditch. And I didn't have as much freedom anymore. Like, I was back in school. Like, it was, the grind had started again. And I spiraled. For the first 2 to 3 weeks, I was missing classes, where I had never missed classes before. And I was almost failing. And I told my teacher, I was straight up, I was like, I've been missing because my mental health has been crumbling. Like, I couldn't get out of bed. Every time I tried to go anywhere, I just felt this like sense of dread come over me. And I told him that, and he said the words. He said these words, and they convinced me to keep going, because I was considering dropping out. I was. And he said, he looked at me like after midterms and he said, I don't care about the absences, I care that you're okay. And like, that broke me a little bit. Because it's like, so many teachers, you forget. I think that we all forget that teachers are human, but I think a lot of teachers also forget that we're human. Especially in the industry that I'm going to. I think we all forget that we're human. I think we all forget that we're fallible. Or we're very hyper aware that we're fallible and we don't have enough faith in ourselves to give ourselves some slack. We try to overcompensate for being fallible, and we end up not in good places a lot of times. And that's a mentality I think, excuse me, that's a mentality I think a lot of people should adopt. Because, like, I can understand missing out on something for, like, a mental health reason. It's why I don't give Tristan half as much shit as I probably should. Because, yes, I'll joke about him not being here a lot. But I understand that he's got his shit going on that's, like, so completely different from mine. In fact, he's got the exact opposite issues that I have. If I lined them next to each other, they would be complete opposites. And I understand what he's got going on. I don't understand all of it. but I know enough. And like, misses a podcast. Necros missed more. I'm sorry, that was so fucking mean. No, but it's like, I've kind of taken to adopting that mentality. Like, I don't care if we couldn't do this thing, I care that you're breathing. And like, that's a mentality I think we all need to have, because like, I could blame religion, I could blame so many things, but it's like, we just have this thing where we do not understand how truly severe somebody taking their own life is. Like, it is so permanent. Not just for them, for everybody. Because you constantly feel it. The absence. And it's not a fun thing to think about. And so I think with that kind of thing, it's whatever path somebody is going down, if you feel like they're in trouble, or you feel as if like what they're doing is hurting them, or like the path that they're going down is something they want to do but they weren't prepared, and like it's messing with them on a mental level, then talk to them. Give them somebody to tell the stuff to. Because literally talking to somebody helps so much. That's why in all of our Discord servers, the Agony server, the roleplay servers, even Moon's server, we have vent channels. And most of the time we have anonymous bots. Now granted, if you're using the anonymous bot every other fucking day, we might remove the feature because we're a little bit concerned. And if the anonymity is exactly what you needed to do the thing, then, like, I understand. But if the problem is that severe, I think you need to talk to somebody openly. Anonymity is great, but sometimes it's not the best. Sometimes you need to come forward and say, these are the problems that I'm having. Can someone help me? And if getting it out there is all you need to do, then get it out there. Throw it into your notes app on your phone. And then delete it. And it's like the problem was never there. Or like go to one of those online counselors. Like one of those ones that you get like the first session free. Talk to one of them. Because our generation, I feel, has the biggest potential to turn this kind of stuff around. Because we are, as they've called us, the connected generation. Like, we know how to use the internet more than any generation before us. And we've used it to our advantage. And we've used it to troll the President of the United States a couple times, but that's beyond the point. If we could connect to each other and just help each other, then I think we could get a better existence out of it than what we currently have. Or we could get Tennessee to repeal that stupid law that makes sharing your Netflix password illegal. I'd take either, honestly.
Okay, that would actually be pretty funny. Like if
Side tangent. I watched that new Power Rangers special on Netflix, and holy fucking shit.
Mm-hmm.
That brought me so much joy. Y'all don't even understand.
Oh, heart emoji.
I loved every second of that. And the little memorial section that they did for Toy and Jason, it was good. But anyway. Alright. Me and Tristan have gone. Moon and Trace.
If I'm doing mine, I'm gonna have to type it out. Because there's no way I'm getting any of it said verbally.
Okay. While Moon is typing, Trace, do you want to take your turn?
whenever it comes to the whole, if you enjoy something, try to find a way to make money off of it. Honestly, I'd say that for a lot of things that can pretty much be possible. Like, even the most niche things, you can find some kind of, you can find some people who would want that thing. I mean, heck, just bit of a side thing, but heck, just look at the fetish market.
You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And that's definitely something. It's like, it's in a similar vein to do what you love.
Yeah.
But in my opinion, the version of it that I was taught, because like the version of it I was taught was from my stepdad, and I already know that he has a lot of toxic complexes. But with him, he always said, if you can't place a monetary value on a hobby, then don't do it.
Yeah, I don't think that's useful. I don't think that's a useful way to think. I mean, at the same time, I will say that like I don't know. So I feel like there are some people nowadays who who kind of want to just push this idea that you can just like do something that doesn't give any value to society and then just be able to just wait for something, basically just wait for profit to roll in. Like
AI art.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Oh, man. I follow someone who's like a real big advocate for AI art solely just to watch them rant and rave because it's just
they're
funny.
Unhinged.
I
They're
know.
so fucking unhinged.
I know.
It's crazy.
She calls anyone who doesn't like AI art a Luddite and says that they don't deserve life.
Luddite. No, because let's back that up a bit. It's like, with AI art, I don't understand. Like, some of it can be cool. I can fully admit some AI art can be cool. But it's like, when we have caught people multiple times red-handed using AI to steal other people's work, I don't know, bro. I just don't. I think we need to go back to the drawing board, literally, on this one.
Yeah. I mean, I can get the idea of like using it as a basis, like using it to conjure up conjure up a base for an idea. Like, say, there's been this one idea for an art piece that I've had for so freaking long, ever since high school, and it's basically like this almost like it's in the middle of a desert. There's a giant mesa, but you can't really even see the mesa anymore because it's completely covered by the skull of this massive beast that has just been impaled on it.
Ooh.
And people have come to this, site and pretty much turned it into a large, almost shanty town. And there are various structures jutting out from like the eye socket of the beast and whatnot. There's rampways going up the mesa itself, leading up to the top.
Such a good fucking concept.
Yeah.
I can fully like visualize that in my head, and it's so cool.
Yeah. And it's like, if you were to tell an AI to generate that, you could say, it's basically like having an on-demand like second person to think of something else for you, and then you can say, okay, yeah, that looks actually pretty interesting. I might adapt that into the thing that I was doing, with my own style and all that, and give it a life of its own. But it's like, people are just basically using it to turn a profit. And like the person that I follow, they've specifically said that the reason why they're using it is because they're burnt out, and it's just like, if you're burnt out, just step away from it.
Just stop. Like, if art is literally like, if a hobby that you love doing has burnt you out, to such an extent where that's your go-to, step back. Like, get you a survival job just really quick and then just step away.
Yeah.
Because, like, do not burn your candle at both ends just because you think you have to.
Yeah, and like to kind of take this back to a better note. One thing that has actually helped me is that I've gotten into machining. You know, working lathes and mills and CNC, and you know, you remember how I was always talking about how I wanted to be a robotics engineer.
Yeah.
Well, doing things like on the mill and the lathe have kind of taught me why I wanted to be a robotics engineer, and it's because I see both of them as a puzzle. With the robotics, it's like, okay, how am I going to get the machine to do this and this and this? And with CNC, it's even more like that, because essentially you can you can just get on a program, you can draw out the shape of whatever part you're wanting to make, and then it's just a case of trying to figure out, okay, how am I going to get it to do these things? Like, I remember one part I was having a bit of trouble with because I just simply couldn't get it to do what I needed it to. Basically, actually, here, let's see if, where is it? Dang it, I can't find paint. I was gonna try to draw it out. Maybe I still can. Let's see. Come on, where, I'll just scroll down. Let's see. Where are you? There you are. Pretty much what it was is that, let's see if I can just share screen, do this, and then pull up the actual page. Basically what it was is that it was something like this. There we go. Then pretty much it was something similar to this right here, and along here, there was a, okay, that's crap, but oh well. Pretty much, just to make sure that it's still like showing this. Oh yeah, all right. Pretty much what it was is that you'd have this, shrink this down to about here. And then, there are bolt holes all along here. And there are also some kind of triangle-like shapes here.
Right.
And there's also something here as well. But pretty much, this is raised to where it's pretty much the highest point on the workpiece. And this is lowered off to about, maybe, I can't remember exactly how low, but maybe about 1/4 of an inch. So, doing putting this down to about 1/4 inch lower than that, that's easy. But was having a hard time actually figuring out how to make this, because the actual like end piece of the stock would have been where this is pretty much like a square, or this is this is this is this is entirely just rectangular. That's just how it comes out. That's the easiest. That's pretty much one of the easiest shapes that you can make. So cylinders and squares are easy to produce. So, it was a puzzle to try and figure out how I could get this radius to actually be made, and eventually, through a good amount of trial and error, I finally figured it out, because there is a bit of a barrier between actually getting the end result that I want and trying to figure out how the computer would interpret that. And sometimes the issue can just be with the computer, where it just randomly decides to break the simulation, like what's wrong with what's wrong with the one on the far end of the room. Seriously, there's just something wrong with it that just causes it to just completely mess whatever is going on up. But yeah, that's pretty much something that has kind of helped me out. Just figuring out exactly what I can do there, and plus, like, there would be a good few applications that I could bring that into. Like, say, if I could get a lathe or a mill, somewhere in our workshop, then I could pretend. It would be pretty costly at the end of the day, but I could be able to actually produce like custom parts. It would probably take with some of the older lathes that they're going to be auctioning off soon, because the governor of Tennessee, Bill Lee, he just signed off a he increased the budget for the class, for like pretty much like all of TCAT. So
we're one step forward, I guess.
Huh? Yeah.
That is definitely interesting, because it's like, I feel like all of us have different perspectives on our mental health, like what helps us, what doesn't. And I was kind of gonna make that the next section, but we can get into it now while Moon is still typing.
One thing that's helped me out is just like with some of my issues, like for me specifically, some of them have just been simple issues of just accepting things as they are. Like, mainly just some things that I've kind of struggled with and been talking out with my therapist. Just basically, like, just accepting certain parts of myself, pretty much, and also trying to kind of dig around and see exactly like where some things stem from.
Either way, sorry, I was reading a Twitter notification. But that's another. It's a funny thing, because it's like, to get into coping mechanisms, I guess. People would not define my coping mechanism as healthy. which there's a lot of propaganda about it, so I'm not entirely surprised. But it's like, the thing about me is that, and I'm a little bit open about this, like, I'm not going to tell my parents yet, but I smoke weed. Like, I do it on a pretty decent basis, but it's like, it helps me get up earlier, just kind of helps me take my mind off of shit. I don't use it to completely, like, tell reality to fuck off. It's just kind of something that chills me out. Helped me get through dance classes too, unironically. But it's like, I think how everybody copes with the issues that they face is different. Because it's like you have like your problem solving. Like you like working with those machines because you like figuring out the solutions to things.
Yeah.
Which is something I saw from you from like when we were kids. Like,
And plus, it's kind of funny because I've gained a bit because like, okay, here's an interesting thing. There was this one like psyop that uh 4chan was trying to do, and on the topic of them, I miss the days when they just trolled Scientology. I really do. Actually, at one point they messed with like some alt right radio host, like some real like someone who was far off the deep end, pretty much. So they mainly used to do like both sides, I guess. But either way, one thing that they have done recently, like, that I found out that kind of irked me was that they did this one thing where like basically they portrayed a bunch of like disorders as like characters, and basically just gave them stereotypes, and people took the bait pretty much. But one interesting thing is that one part about OCD is that it can actually lead to devotion to like your job, for instance. And I can definitely see that starting in me because I'm gaining an almost religious devotion to the machines. I am genuinely contemplating just like, I mean, for one, just because I've gotten into Warhammer and it's pretty interesting, and I gravitated towards the Mechanicus. Either way, I've wanted to kind of make a Warhammer themed sensor, and just maybe bring that into the shop to try and bless some of the machines. Although, probably not that, but
going back into coping mechanisms temporarily. Another one that I find kind of helpful is just like me and my friends. There's this pier. So like if you walk a couple avenues this way, you'll end up at like where the city meets the Hudson River, like where the highway is. And if you go down, there's a little pier down there that like juts off into the river. And sometimes we go down there and we just chill out and we talk and we listen to music. And it's like, it's also very relaxing. Like, there's something about the way that the water moves and how like there's literally nothing and nobody out there. It's just kind of nice.
Mm-hmm.
Or like I'll sit down by the lake, by the fountain in Central Park. Something about water is just kind of inherently helpful in that basis. But it's just like, I think the main set of coping mechanisms that I would hope somebody has is I hope they have a way that they can go somewhere that's just nice and soothing and they can clear their thoughts. I think you need something that you're able to use in the day to day, be it like carts or marijuana or just like something to calm you down. Which is why I think like CBD, THC, all of that stuff can be very beneficial. And yeah, recreational use is fine too. Like recreational use could definitely be a coping mechanism. Sometimes you just want to feel nice. That's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But the third one I think is the most important is having a support network. And I've always said it's incredibly important for people to have support networks because I know what it's like to not have one. And it sucks. Which is why over the years I've started to build mine. Like, I have the lot of you. I have my friends here. Like, I have people to go to if I'm ever about to jump off a bridge. Like, could y'all shut the fuck up? All these fucking sirens every day. Just sick of this shit. But it's like I definitely feel like those are the three main ones. It's just like somewhere where you can go and just exist and like process everything away from everything else. Something to help you when you can't go to that place. And then a support network around for when you don't have either. I think those are the three big coping mechanisms that people need to have. And speaking of coping mechanisms, I'd like to take this part of the podcast to plug my associate, Binoid. I've been talking a lot about smoking weed, THC products, CBD, and all of that. Things that'll probably get us kicked off of Twitch, but hey, what the fuck do I care? The point is, if you would like any of these products, you can go to my brand new link tree, and that is linktr.ee/DaltonCSP in all lowercase. And you can do that, and if somebody would like to post that into the chat, that would be greatly appreciated. And you can do all of that, and you can go to the very top box, it's Binoid, and you can go there and buy yourself edibles, carts, batteries, fucking disposables. There's even the sister company Blooms that sells like THC bud. Get you all your stuff. Use my code CSP at checkout. It'll get you 10% off. Or there's sometimes site-wide sales that go on, like on 420 or on Mother's Day. There's that guy, Carl. I think his name's Carl. Your boy Carl. I think it's Carl. He always hooks you up with really great deals. He gave me a 35% off coupon code one time. You can get rewards points, which I believe 100 points is like $10. So if you rack up enough points, you could end up getting an entire order for free. You just have to pay shipping. Which is what I did once. But yeah, if you'd like to use my associate link, it would greatly help me out, especially my current financial situation, and you could get you a nice coping mechanism. Me personally, I recommend the THCA Unicorn Berry. It tastes nice. It hits nice. The first time I used it, I was fucked off of 2 hits. It's great. But back to your regularly scheduled Agony. I'm going to make a link tree for the podcast as well. I just haven't started doing it.
Yeah, that's a fair one.
The Binoid link is also going to be in the Agony of Moon podcast link tree.
As it should be.
Moon, if you're done typing yours, I can read it.
I mean, I'm putting it in the group chat.
I'm just saying I could read it out loud.
Yeah, you can. You probably should, honestly.
So what you've said thus far is your coping mechanisms consist of singing, drawing, listening to music, and talking to us and role-playing, which are very good ones. I wish I could take up scuba diving as one, but it's too costly to do properly. Agreed. I think scuba diving would be an interesting coping mechanism. You just, like, once a week go out, dive down, see what you can find.
Honestly, with scuba diving, it's not even finding things, it's literally just existing in the water for an extended period of time.
Water seems to be a thing when it comes to coping mechanisms.
It's so
Either
good.
either drinking it or being inside it seems to be a common thing.
My thing with
Going
water is I can just sit there, like in scuba gear, obviously. I can just sit there, breathe, and just exist, and I don't have to do anything. No effort in even standing. I can just exist.
I wonder how the four of us would do in sensory deprivation tanks.
Oh, that'd be crazy.
Going back to AI art for a second while we have a moment. Um,
Yeah.
I'd never admit this to anybody, but I guess I'm gonna admit it publicly. So the roleplay Nexus server, the new icon that I got for it, yeah, that's AI art.
Honestly, that's fair.
Remember, kids, stealing AI art is morally correct. No, nobody quote me on that. I'm not about to get hounded by the fucking crypto bros. I'm not doing this shit.
I don't want to deal with the crypto bros, my guy. That just sounds unpleasant.
Unpleasant and unfortunate.
True.
What are some other good coping mechanisms? I mean, one of mine is a coping mechanism, but it kind of ties into against terms of services things. But
I mean, I'd imagine just going on a walk in general is probably a pretty decent one.
going on a walk is nice. I was thinking of specifically like, I mean, obviously, I'm an amateur hypnotist. I'm going to say this eventually. But, I mean, to be completely honest, hypnosis is a very good way to overcome a lot of your inner stuff. I've definitely used it and seen it used to do things of the sort. I've also seen it used to convince a man that he was holding a lemon that never existed.
One good thing about it is that really it only works if it's like if you want if you want if you know if you like you'll never end up doing something that you don't want to do.
It's exactly that. But I feel like what a lot of people don't understand about hypnosis is that, like, yeah, that is the aspect of it. Like, you can't do anything that you don't want to do. But you have to understand how your own mind works before you try to get into a community with it. Because the problem that I have with a lot of hypnosis communities is that, like, they focus so hard on the kinky aspect that they forget that certain things like consent exist.
Yeah.
Which is bullshit, because like you should never put somebody into that altered state of being without telling them what you're going to do, because it's like obviously you can get yourself out of it at any time, but like if somebody's uneducated or if somebody's like not sure of what their limits are, they can be made to do something that they look back on and are like, I didn't want to do that, but they didn't know how to go about not doing it. So it just kind of happened. Like, hypnosis is a messy subject, but like, I feel like being able to shift off all of the insecurities that come with talking about mental health, or like just letting somebody be in control of your brain just for a little bit, I find it a bit therapeutic. But it's like it's a messy subject. He can't keep getting away with it. Y'all don't know what that's in reference to. Anyway,
I know what it's in reference to.
yeah, he's got something he posted a picture that kind of looks like Kamen Rider Liangle's spear. He keeps getting away with it. Anyway, for those who are not in the know, there's a artist on DeviantArt. I'm not going to say their name. They keep posting these like fantasy weapon concepts, and they're fine once you look at them. But then you look at them a little bit closer and you realize they're kind of knockoffs of Kamen Rider weapons. And Super Sentai weapons. They just look a little different. Oh my fucking god, that's Dogo Kengekido and Fusoken Hayate. He can't. I'm sick. The point is, but I think that, like, there's definitely a whole host of different ways that people can cope. It's just that you gotta find one that's healthy.
Yeah.
Because anything can be unhealthy if you use it enough, but some are just, like, inherently unhealthy.
Yeah. I remember, there's some coping mechanisms that I've seen for some people. And, it's like, okay, fine, you can do that in the comfort of your own home. But also, I mean, I remember it was on TLC at one point, and they were just like, "Oh, we don't do it out in public." Cut to them doing it out in public, in a field full of kids.
And that's definitely one where I think it'd be like, there's at some point a line where it's like, if it helps you cope, you're valid, and I understand.
Yeah.
But there's kind of a line where it's like, I've always had this caveat. I'm like, whatever helps you, please try to do it. But on that same token, other people did not consent to be part of whatever it is you're doing. So
Yeah.
unless you have that express consent, please don't do it. Because it's like, I've always said, do whatever you want as long as you're not hurting people or yourself.
Yeah.
I'm typing. I'll read Moon's thing in a second. I'm typing. All right. So Moon is still currently typing, but I'm going to start reading his bit. I think when it comes to my mental health, the biggest detriment to mine just overall for my life is simply the fact that I've moved around so much. My ability to talk to people and make friends has completely deteriorated to the point I can barely hold a conversation with anyone that doesn't immediately share any interests with me. I've spent about 3 or so years now without being able to make proper connection with anyone IRL. The people I have on Discord are very literally the only people I really have to talk to ever, and I've tried so hard to make connections IRL, especially earlier on. Yeah. And, like, that's kind of going back to, like, the people are fickle creatures thing. Because it's like, that's the thing, that's a common thread between, like, I think everybody. Just because, like, the older you get, like, Moon, you're, like, on the precipice of being a true adult. But, like, when you're an adult, it is so much harder to make friends. Like, I'm thankful that I have college and I still have the, like, school friend kind of thing to fall back on.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if I didn't have school or coworkers, I think that Discord would probably be my only source of friends right now. Because shit's kind of fucked. Like, having to initiate conversation or having, like, conversation initiated on you and then you have to, like, keep it up. It's especially, like, it's awful. No one in school would ever see me, and no one in church would stick around past polite greetings. Yeah. That's the other thing, too. It's like, people who are raised in church definitely do not know how to make a lot of friends outside of that. Because it's like, one, if people in church talk to you, it's usually about church, or if you talk about something off topic, then it's just like it was the two of you trying to get away from it. And then like when you're out of church, suddenly you don't have that connection anymore. Which was the case a lot of times with me. It's like I would make friends with people in church and we would talk in church, and then like they didn't know me outside. And then I became an atheist. So read. Honestly, in church, it's either about church or like boys or something. Or if you're in the boys part of church, you talk about girls or something. It's always so one-sided. Yeah. Sports, maybe. It's never interesting. Yeah, that's the other thing. It's like the people you meet in church, there's always like a 10 to like 5% chance that they'll ever share any kind of interest with you. Simply because they're either being made to go to church the same as a lot of us were, or they're there because their life has just been like completely in the religion. And it's like you never know what to do. But that's why I kind of think that churches keep their members for so long, because it's that community aspect. Like even after you stop believing, you don't want to lose the community. So you just end up still going out of it. Like that's what I've heard a lot of people do. And that's what I did for a period of time. Also because my parents forced me, but that's beyond the point. Out of everyone in Florida, I was the only one who was going because I was forced to. At least back in Michigan, when I did go to church, I actually had someone to talk to because they shared my interest. Probably just Warrior Cats or something, but they were the reason I would ever go. And then I moved to Florida and lost that completely and couldn't make any connections with anyone in school or church in the first year. Then COVID hit. My entire time living in Florida, I only had 2 people I was able to interact with a few times a month, and then I never spoke to them otherwise because they were just kind of never around. Yeah. That's definitely an aspect of it. It's like also your social capabilities. Especially in a situation like that where it's like you're constantly having to change things. It's definitely wild. Now I'm here and I live in the middle of nowhere where I can't meet people my age. There are no sports groups to hang around and there's no card shop or anything. I'm homeschooled, so I don't have school to go to. That's also something that not a lot of people like. It's a thing we understand, but it's like we don't give it enough of the time of day. Homeschooled people, I think, are more at risk for having mental health issues than public school people, but for different reasons. Because public school, your mental health can spiral for 57 different reasons. It's like you've got a paper due, you've got like your friends are going through something, or it's like, God forbid, you're getting bullied. But it's like in homeschool, you're stuck in one place. Like you're learning the same things, but you're stuck in one place. You've got basically nobody except your family, which are the people you've been around your whole life. Those aren't friends. You've got nobody who like shares your interests unless you've got like a really cool sibling. But even then, it's like it's not social because like you kind of have to be social with your family unless you completely cut them off. But like if you're living in the same roof, then it's not like you kind of have to interact with each other. Like it's not a social connection. I'd say homeschool and public school are equally at risk of mental health for different reasons. If you're lucky, there'll be homeschool groups you can go to, but that's the most of it. But that's the thing, though. It's like with public school, by government mandate, you have to go, and at least you're guaranteed somebody. Like schools are filled with hundreds and hundreds of kids. Campbell County hit 1,000, I think, like 2 years ago. At least in there's a guarantee of one person. At homeschool, you've got like nothing. Like you said, if you're lucky, there will be homeschool groups, but there's no guarantee that that happens. At least in public school, you're guaranteed one person. And that's something I don't think we understand, especially because a lot of these people, especially now after COVID, are homeschooling their kids because they want their kids to be taught a religious education, and the separation of church and state prevents that. So these parents are trying to game the system by homeschooling their kids. That's not Moon's situation. Or at least I fucking hope it isn't. But
I do feel like it is also cases of just like I do feel like it is also just irritation over like how some of the schools decided to overreach a bit. Like I remember one kid got suspended because he had a BB gun in the background of his home, where it could not hurt anybody. Where it could not hurt anybody, but still they decided to suspend him for bringing a weapon to school or something like that. Or how some schools were talking about how they didn't even want the kids to come back because they saw the parents as just people offloading them to offloading their kids to babysitters. That's kind of my view of some of it.
well, it's like definitely like the babysitter thing, but it's like I think after COVID, it's definitely become more of a religious thing, especially because like the way that people are acting.
Mm.
Because it's like schools are like they've always done this, but for some reason conservatives just now have a problem with it. Like they require vaccines and they like actually teach science, which is I cannot put my head into the mindset of these people because I can't shove my head that far up my ass. But it's like I've seen it more recently where it's like these kids are getting a secular education and these parents are mad about it. So they're pulling their children out of school and putting them into homeschool scenarios. And it's like you are sabotaging. Like this is why I think homeschooling needs to be regulated, or we need to have specific homeschooling teachers. And it's not just the parents teaching the kid. I think we need to have homeschooling teachers that like teach this shit because like the homeschooling, to my knowledge, sabotages these kids.
I mean, one thing
Like-
that I will say that like one of my relatives, they're homeschooling their kids, and it's not really because of like choice. It's because really that's the only available option because the father works from home. He does like IT stuff like that. So so he doesn't go around, or actually, honestly, I can't quite remember. But either way, he's not available to take them to school, and their mother can't drive. Like, she is legally not allowed to drive because she's an albino, and she just has terrible eyesight. So, as far as I know, a bus doesn't go through there either. So it's kind of like they're just stuck.
Well, I'm not saying there's not good
Yeah.
reasons to homeschool. I'm just saying it's becoming more common these days.
I'm not saying that you're saying that either. I'm just putting forward a good reason for it to exist, just so that way no one thinks that you can just go scorched earth.
Right, which is like, that's why I'm saying I think it needs to be regulated, because like, I think with everything, regulation is necessary. Like, capitalism needs to be regulated. Healthcare needs to be free, but it also needs to be regulated. But it's
one thing that I will say with the whole healthcare thing, I do think that we can make something where, like, for various injuries and ailments, that we can have something to help out the people who can't really afford it. But at the same time, it wouldn't hurt to be able to have, like, things for the people who can, because, like, one issue that comes in whenever you just make something free wholesale is that, like, at the end of the day, like, the doctors, the farmers, the people building the houses, they're people too. They need money too. They need to eat too. And it just causes issues, because, like, if the funding runs dry for say the doctors, then there's two options. Either the doctors leave for a better job that they can actually get money for, so that way they can afford to eat, or they're required to work. And we saw something similar to that in China whenever the virus was hitting, where doctors were being held at gunpoint. Although I'm not sure if that might. I'll stop talking about that because it's a Twitch.
Well, I think as far as that goes, my issue with American healthcare has always been, why does our healthcare suck? And why do we have to constantly bankrupt ourselves to get the basic shit when the rest of the world gets it either at a highly discounted rate or for free, and there are none of these problems? Like, don't get me wrong, I gotta understand, countries have better infrastructure than us. But it's like, a country with a similar economy to ours does not have these problems. Like Denmark, Sweden, the UK, none of these problems. And none of the problems that any of our politicians bring up when bashing universal health care either. None of these problems exist. Like, my thing has always been, we need to catch up to the rest of the world in terms of a lot of this. And the rest of the world also has a lot of better mental health care services. They have better prisons that don't encourage recidivism. They have better mental health resources that are basically like free with any job that you get. They have better asylums that actually try to like rehabilitate. They have better means of getting medications. They literally just have it better. And it's like, that's why I'm always so tax the billionaires. That's why I'm always so like, distribute the money into something that isn't the fucking military or the police that are clearly not working. Like, it's always been my thing of, if something isn't working, do something else.
Yeah.
And America just seems to refuse to do that. So, as far as that goes, it's like, here's the thing. This is getting into a very off-topic rant, but I'm going to say it. let's say that we taxed one of these billionaires from like another country, but they have their account in America because we don't tax anybody for shit. If you make over $400,000 a year, if we actually taxed them, let's go for what's the normal tax? Like 10%?
I think so.
10%. These people are in the multiple billions of dollars. Multiple billions. 10% of that is so much money. Hold on a second. I'm getting on Google. Let's just say, hypothetically, Bill Gates is worth $113.9 billion.
Well, the one thing that you got to consider is that isn't just like money that's just laying around in a vault somewhere.
I understand it's set up in other things, but I'm saying like if we're taking that number, I just want to see. What is 10% of 113.9 billion? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So that is $1,139,000,000. That is $1 billion and some change from one guy that could be going into so much. From a percentage that's probably not even the actual tax percentage that I just pulled out of my ass. That is $1 billion that could be going into so much. And that's one guy. And he still has the other 112 billion that he still had. Like, this isn't a complicated thing. 10% is probably the lowest tax that I would ever put on one of these guys. Bill Gates, Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos. If they have a bank account here and they're keeping that kind of money around, okay, maybe not so much Elon Musk anymore, but like, the point is, if they have this kind of money and they want to use America for their businesses, they should be paying a fair tax. And they still keep so much of that money, even after we tax them fairly. And we can use that money for so much. I think somebody said, if we taxed one of the billionaires for like 10 to 15%, the money that was generated from that could end world hunger. Because these people have so much money that they're doing literally nothing with. Except Elon Musk, who blew like $400 billion buying Twitter, but that's beyond the point. It's like, I think it's just incredibly stupid that America does not see the obvious literally ever. Because if they could make the tax bracket to where we pay more and the billionaires somehow pay less, we can make it the other way around. It's just nobody has the stones to. Like, that's my thing. But back to mental health. I definitely think that what resources we do have, we need to understand how to use them and how to use them efficiently. I think things like pride counseling and like all that stuff is incredibly useful. I think we need to get our medical science up to speed, because people who are identified female at birth and also people of color are heavily underdiagnosed for mental health conditions that they do have and are not getting the help they need because of that. And it's stupid. And I think that in general, because this is my entire thing. This was like the point of this entire stream, why I picked with this topic because I want to talk about it. In this school, in AMDA, you're getting some AMDA inside information. They constantly talk about mental health. They have a scenario set up for a mental health day. Like, they have that for you. But the thing is, they don't do anything to help you. Because if you take a mental health day, you have to go see somebody in order to still get a, like, excuse. And the thing is, that's not what a mental health day is. A mental health day is literally a day that you need to rest. Because the only days off that we get are sometimes Saturday and then Sunday. Because sometimes we have rehearsals on Saturdays, or sometimes we have reviews, or sometimes we have makeup classes, or sometimes there are events that we're required to go to, or sometimes there's showcases on Saturdays, performances. Sometimes we have individual voice demos on Saturdays, like I do this week. There's just so much that they throw at us, and then we require us to take a mental health day because we can't take it. And now they're all of a sudden like, well, if you take a mental health day, you have to go to a psychiatrist and get a note. And that's not what that is, and that's not what it's supposed to be. Because a lot of us just need a day. Just one day. Sometimes we need multiple. And that's a whole different set of circumstances. But it's like, my thing is, I'm always of the mentality of, do not pretend that you care about my mental health, but whenever I try to conserve my mental health, punish me for it. Like, I've reached out to so many teachers saying that I needed a day for my mental health, and they didn't penalize me, but the school did. The school was like, you didn't use our system. You just went ahead and told your teachers. I was like, yeah, because my teachers know me. My teachers are actually decent people. My teachers understand what it's like to be in my situation. And granted, they don't know all of it, but like Jasmine and fucking like my director last semester and all of that shit, it's just like they understand that mental health is more important than a fucking grade. And they understand that if I miss a day, that I'm going to try my damnedest to catch back up to whatever the fuck I missed. And that needs to be it across the board. If somebody's abusing the system, I'm sorry, that's just a consequence. But you should not punish literally everybody else for the actions of like 1 to 3 people. Because that's always the shit that I hear against mental health days, and it pisses me off. It's like, well, if you let people take mental health days, then all of these other people are just going to take them for no reason. And I'm like, yeah, that's the consequences of letting people have something. Unfortunately, some people are going to game the system. What the fuck do you think the Electoral College is? It's like, yeah, we'll vote by elections, but we're going to basically rig them and basically say that land can vote. Fucking Republicans. Before I get too political. But it's the consequences of something existing is that someone is going to manipulate it. It is an inevitability. But if you're going to use somebody manipulating it as a reason to punish everybody else who doesn't manipulate it, you're a piece of shit. You're a piece of shit. I'm sorry, there is no other way I can say that to you. And I think across the board, it needs to be, if I need to take a day for my mental health, I need to be given that day. Because I would rather walk into somewhere and be able to give my best than walk into somewhere feeling like I want to fucking die and then not giving my best. I feel like it drags everybody else down, and I feel like it drags me down. And I don't want to do that to people. Well, it's like, I don't know. That's just my personal stance on that. I think that taking days off for mental health needs to be more normalized and less stigmatized. I think a lot of things related to mental health needs to just be less stigmatized in general. I feel like as a generation, we have the power to kind of change the landscape of the workplace. And I think we need to where these people understand that we value ourselves over their profits. I think that needs to be the end of the story. I think we need to value ourselves over somebody else's money. And whether that money eventually becomes our money is irrelevant. You are more important than somebody else's pocketbook. I'm sorry, I need to read Moon's thing again. It's not my situation at all. My family started homeschooling me during COVID because the workload was beyond unrealistic. Let's talk about that, actually. Let me read this and then I'll talk about it. I would have 3 project level assignments due every other day, and that kind of workload you're only ever getting done if you spend all night working on them, and I actually try to take care of myself and get a night of sleep. I feel like COVID made bad actors more confident to homeschool their kids for religious reasons. Oh, I know someone who's albino. That's unrelated, though, but they're usually legally blind. America is stupid. That's the normal thing. Tithing's 10%. I could have sworn I had more. I could bring it up, but I can't remember any of it. My memory sucks. I can talk about my entire identity issues and or I don't know. God, where the fuck did half of them go? Soma? Maybe. The workload was horrible. Let's talk about the workload. Public school and just workloads in general have become ridiculous. And this is, for at least jobs, this is partially due to the pandemic, and I've actually experienced this firsthand, and I'll get to that. But school workloads are ridiculous. They absolutely are. And half the time, it's because they just need grades. Literally, I've talked to a lot of teachers, and they literally say, I'm only assigning this because the state requires that I put in a grade for something. And that's bullshit. And I've said, this might be the topic for the next regular podcast that we do. I would rebuild the education system from the ground up if I fucking could. And I know the exact way that I would do it. But that's not the point. The point is, the workloads of schools do not take into account the fact the people who they are giving these workloads to are children. Like, these are not adults who have been trained to do this as if any other job is. These are children. Like, you are putting this workload on children. And it's frankly bullshit. Because it's like, we expect so much out of people in the real world.
Remember Common Core math?
Fuck Common Core math. Shit was okay. I'm gonna stop before I get into an entire rant about the educational system. I'm gonna tie this back to mental health. Next Agony of Moon podcast that isn't the AGP is going to be about my issues with the school system. We'll talk about it. Point is, schools definitely need to have. They need to slow the fuck down on the curriculum. They need to be teaching shit that's actually useful, and they need to cater more to mental health. There needs to be at least set days wherever there's not assignments. Like, a lot of teachers do this anyway. A lot of teachers don't assign homework on the weekends, but like, some do. And if you assign homework on the weekends, you're a piece of shit. No
Yeah,
exceptions.
And
like,
one thing about it is like and this is only a recent realization that some people have. Gifted students are basically just advanced special ed.
Speaking as a gifted kid who also figured out that he was autistic senior year, yeah.
Yeah, because like
Honestly?
the thing about it is like my issue from being a gifted student is that I never had to develop a work ethic. Like, I just knew. Like, I could just like look at whatever the material was and just be like, Okay, yep, I'm ready.
If
And
y'all,
that's
if y'all,
the
yeah,
thing
go ahead.
about gifted students is that like I just the thing of gifted students is like you basically the gifted student program is actually bullshit because all it does is just it's made to burn you out. Because gifted students they get put in harder classes, they get more workload. They're basically rewarded for their intelligence with everything being harder. And it's bullshit. Because all you're doing is beating whatever gift we had out of us and burning us out by the time that we get to the real world and we can't function. I literally had to drop out of a class because the workload was actually fucking ridiculous because it was supposedly an honors class.
They
And that's
they put me
bullshit.
in an honors class by force when I didn't want to go in because my standardized test results were that good, and I was like, homie, I do not want to be presented with more work because I do well. Please and thank you.
No, literally. Because it's like when I got to sophomore year, I had honors English first semester and I passed. And then I had honors English second, and we got in there and we sat down and she passed out these folders and she said, over the course of the year you're going to get assignments every day. Like, there is not going to be a second of this class where you're not doing something, and you're going to have to keep track of all of these things in chronological order in this folder, and this folder is going to be your final grade. And the second that those words came out of her mouth, I literally raised my hand and said, hey, can I go to the bathroom? And I went to the guidance counselor and I got my fucking schedule switched.
Yeah, reasonably.
Because
I
there's no fucking way.
Yeah, no, and not anyway. I
You could not pay me. I'm sorry, you couldn't pay me. Like it was
I I I went for honors science because I love science and I was willing to do extra work. They put me in honors English because I did well. I was like, no. I told them directly. They were like, we're gonna put you in honors English, and I was like, no, thank you. I don't want to do that. And they were like, you're gonna do it, and I was like, can I not? And they were like, no, you have to. And I was like, fine, I guess. But if I fail, it's your fault.
yeah.
And I was like, ugh. I told my mom about it as well. I was salty.
I guess in these like last couple minutes we got here, I just kind of want to wrap it up and say your mental health always comes first. And I don't mean that like in the wishy-washy way that all of these places say. No. Your mental health comes first. If you need to miss a class, if you need to not go to work one day, if you need to skip an event because you do not feel like you can handle it, do not force yourself to do that kind of shit. Don't. It's not worth it. Put on your own oxygen mask first. Make sure that you are okay, and then those people can get your time. If there are people that you like to hang around with that will help you with your like mental concerns and will like ease your mind, hang out with those people. If you like smoking weed, use my affiliate link linked in my link tree and use code CSP at checkout for 10% off at Binoid because shit, they got good stuff. I'm not gonna lie to you. But or if it's like you go to therapy and therapy helps you, contact your therapist. If you have somebody who you can like talk to about this shit, talk to them. But do not ever think that you have to put your health on hold because somebody else needs you to do something that day. You come first. Always. In any circumstance, you come first. No job, no teacher, no thing should ever stand in the way of you taking care of yourself. Because the second that you let it, you are going to fall apart. because the second that you let it, something else is going to come along, and then that's going to get in the way. And if you let the first thing, you're probably going to let the second thing too. So always remember, put yourself first in every single circumstance. And thank you guys so much for watching, tuning in, listening to this Agony of Moon podcast. If you'd like to find us on social media, you can join our Discord. You can follow us on Twitter at Agony of Moon podcast. You can follow us on TikTok as well at Agony of Moon podcast. I'll start posting clips of streams or like doing random TikToks for that. Probably like Agony of Grand Prix related stuff, just because like I should be hopefully getting more hours at Stickies soon, and then I can afford to get things again, and I might get like a Dire ID core as well as like a beat buckle, and then I'll like do my henshin, and then the others can film themselves doing it. Join us next week for the Agony of Grand Prix, where our returning champion Moon and the rest of us riders will all be chosen to compete once again. At least most of us will. Follow me on social media. You can go to my link tree that has been linked before. I'm sure it can be linked again. All of my social media is in there. Trace and I share the YouTube channel Clash of Swords Productions. You can follow Moon on Twitter at MoonLitDom with the next N at the end, as well as the same way for Twitch.
Don't we have a thing going on your channel as well, though?
Okay, so
Is it not up yet?
it's not.
So
For those who don't know, we started a Minecraft server and have recorded a couple episodes of us playing on it, except I do not have the editing software yet to edit the finished products because it costs money. So I am currently waiting for myself to get financially stable enough to where I can buy the software, finish the editing, and then do the things that I need to do. But that will be a thing. Agony Craft is coming soon to Clash and Swords Productions, so stay tuned on that front. Having said that, thank you guys so much for watching. What'd you say?
Where's the that link that you have? Because I don't have it.
What link?
The link that you've been talking about, like the affiliate
link tree
thing. Yeah.
Oh, my Binoid link. I'll send it to you. But yes, thank you guys so much for watching. Please join our Discord server. That way you can interact with all of us, and you can like be a part of the podcast, like vote on certain things whenever we do polls. Always be notified whenever a stream starts. Just do all of that stuff. Follow us on Twitch. Subscribe to all of our channels. Subscribe to the Agony Moon YouTube channel where you can see our VODs. That's also in my link tree. Thank you guys so much for watching. Don't cause too much agony. That's our job. Watch the world burn. We will be around to light the flame. And take care of yourself.